For Denis, the most important thing, the first thing, was to show new generation why the novel Bonjour Tristesse was a true social explosion in 1950 for French society. He asked me. I only had 5 months to write the novel. That was an extremely short deadline. For example, for all my other novels, I needed at least 1 or 2 years to complete them. So it was hard. And when he asked me to write the novel, I was battling in a very trying and painful personal situation, a separation. And it was almost the same day when Denis called me, and this day of this separation. So, in order to forget my sadness, I threw myself into work, and Françoise Sagan became, during these 5 months, like a friend who helped me to overcome my trials. I discovered that therein lays her relevance today, because she's not only a young girl who wrote a bestseller, she's a soul that still speaks to women today. And she's in that way very modern. Mm-hmm. So that was for this reason that I decided to create 2 time periods in the book. Part of the novel takes place in 1954, and the other part takes place now to show the influence of Françoise Sagan in the 21st century.
Yes. So keep going.
Can I ask you a question? Actually, how did you choose that format to tell the story, where it would be partly in, why did you want to put yourself in the story?
For this reason, to show that she was still alive, because she helped me to overcome the pain, and it was a good way to show to the new generation that
she was some kind of remedy for the pain and for the sadness she was going through.
But the subject matter of the novel is the publishing of a first novel. The fact is that this first novel will go on to be the most well-known first novel in the world. But at the beginning, nobody knows it. So the novel opens with a young girl. She's 18 years old. So she's not recognized as an adult, because I would like to remind you that in 1954, the legal age to vote was 21 years old. So those making Françoise Sagan a minor at this time. And also we have to remember that back then the concept of teenagehood did not exist. You are either an adult or a child. There is no in-betweens. So Françoise Sagan is considered almost as a child when everything started. Or if not a child, like a very young girl in a very machist society. So at this time, you said women couldn't open a bank account without their husband's approbation. And that's why it's an interesting anecdote in the book. When Françoise Sagan won the Critics' Choice Award, she couldn't receive the check that come with it. And so the jury gave her cash instead. And it was a lot of money for this time. And so she paid all the bills in a drawer at her parents' house. And her mother didn't know. And when the mother opened the drawer at the kitchen, or I don't know, she found all the bills.
And she couldn't even sign the contract with the publisher because she was 18 and she was supposed to be 21, so her mother signed the contract for her.
When she was writing the book, she didn't realize the effect it will have on people. She assumed they would see the main character, Cécile, as an immoral person because she provoked the death of another human being. But not once did she think that the sexual part of the story was going to prevail.
Yes.
And it was for the first time that a young woman talked about her sexuality freely, with no regrets, guilt-free. And she explained in the book that Cécile wants to have sex with a boy that she didn't love. And that's a scandal. Because not only didn't she love him, but worse, she looked down on him and thought that he wasn't very bright or interesting. So nevertheless, she didn't care. All she wanted was to explore her sexuality. And at the end, she wasn't punished by either falling pregnant or being forced to marry him. And that was a matter of scandal. And that's why in my book I made a parallel with Brigitte Bardot. Because at the exact same time she created a scandal because she appeared nude in movies and embraced her sexuality and the freedom to do whatever she wanted with her body. So I spoke about that. Maybe you want to add something about the scandal.
And my mother thought the scandal would come from the attitude of Cécile, who, during all the book, tries to keep her father for herself. She tries to push her father's girlfriend away from the little circle she created with her father, and she pushes this woman so relentlessly away from her cycle that this woman ends up suiciding herself. She dies at the end of the book, and because Cécile makes us, her father meets another woman, and well, how do I explain? But she is Cécile is some kind of diabolique. You know, she creates a situation very complicated for this woman. So that's the scandal is that this woman dies at the end of the book, and so the scandal is expected where nobody would expect it. I don't know if I make myself clear. I'm trying to, but it's not easy. Excuse me. So my mother were expecting one scandal and another scandal came up. That's what I wanted to say.
The scandal was so phenomenal and big that it impacted her entire life to the point that she was getting hate mail, threatening letters, and even her parents also suffered the consequences. So she became a symbol of freedom, and with the money that she won, she bought fast cars. She went where she wanted. She had a group of close friends that she went clubbing with, and so she lived her life unapologetically. And she invented a new style, a new lifestyle, and a new style in literature, even a new style of how to wear pants and crop tops, everything together.
Yeah, she was called a new wave at the time. She was supposed to create a new style of living, a new style of going out, a new style of going party and inviting her friends, driving fast cars, and dressing dressing a little like a boy. Can we say that? So she was pointed as someone who created a new wave.
So in my novel, during 1 year, I explore each stage of how to publish a debut novel, and we watch Françoise as she submits her manuscript to various publishing companies. We see how René Julliard is taken with Françoise' manuscript, and he can't believe it was written by this girl. He thinks at first that it's too profound, too brilliant, because she writes beyond her years. And we see that in the same time she had dreams like other young girls. She plays with her best friend, Florence Malraux, who is the daughter of André Malraux, the French writer. And I would like to add that I met Florence Malraux to write the book, and she told me about her memories, and she's really one of the most amazing women I've ever met. We see Françoise, she lives in Paris, she's the youngest of 3 siblings in a bourgeois family, and with her parents who are unique, they are free spirits, how they completely adore their little Françoise, nicknamed Kiki. So we see this year, month after month.
Yeah, my mother was the youngest of 3, and she was adored by her father and mother because she came very late. She came 8 years after older brother Jacques, and she had a brother who unfortunately passed away when he was very young. And so when my mother came, she was unexpected. So all the love went to her. My grandfather and my grandmother, they really cherished her daughter. They loved her. She was very bright. She was very funny. She was very curious. So she was adored, and she was spoiled all her life. And she became even more spoiled by life when she wrote this book.
And so in the book, you can read how Françoise is delighted to have found an editor, and so she runs to meet her best friend Florence, and excitedly tells her that she will use the money to buy a Jaguar. And we also read how Françoise decided on a pen name because her real name was Françoise Quarez, and how she
Because
yes.
because the name Quarez The publisher said the name was not very sexy. So the publisher said you need to find another name, and so she was, at the time she was reading Proust, and so she picked the name Sagan inside Proust.
In remembrance of
Yes.
Sin's best. And I also explain how Françoise visits bookstores and sees her work for sale in the window, and how and how immediately it becomes a scandal among journalists of the period. So you can see all the stage of the
Yeah, one day she walks into a bookstore and her book is displayed in the window in the store. So she goes to the salesman and she asks for the book as someone who doesn't know about it. And the person at the bookstore says, I should not recommend this book for you. It's not for young girls.
My book ends with this first year of her life as an author, but the following year was almost as eventful as the previous one. And she went to United States, and she really was received like a rock star. Her book was a bestseller in America. She made some of America's biggest name in literature, like Tennessee Williams and Kirsten McCullers. You can read, because maybe here in one book of portraits, Tennessee Williams wrote something, a portrait of Françoise Sagan, who is really amazing. So also in America, she was considered as an icon, and maybe you heard this famous anecdote about the first day of her signing. She wrote for the readers, with all my sympathy, because in French you say avec toute ma sympathie, that means with all my appreciation.
Yeah, so after she had signed maybe 30 books, someone came to her and said, you shouldn't say sympathy because it means something else. So she was very embarrassed. She was very ashamed. But it was funny though.
I do have a question. And what did you, before Denis called you, what did you know about Françoise and her life, and had you read her other books?
Yes, of course, I've read Bonjour Tristesse, but I read it when I was 18, and I was too young to understand why was this book so brilliant. So I had a very good memory of the book, but when I read it again from the book, I was so, it's amazing.
It's a classic. Excuse me.
Yes.
It's a classic. Bonjour Tristesse is as Catcher in the Rye. It's a classic book now. Everyone reads it, and it's known as a. I don't say that because it's my mother, but it's supposed to be a very well written book, very easy to read and very easy and intelligent book. So it became a classic. But at the time it was written, it made a scandal. So it's a different reason, I guess.
And I also had seen the movie Françoise Sagan.
Which I didn't like.
Yes.
The movie about her?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't like the movie. But that's okay.
And I also had read, I know that you don't like this biography. I read it by Marie-Dominique Lelièvre.
Yes.
But I had read it, for me it was very interesting. Sorry.
Denis, you said you didn't like the film. You mean the one with Sylvie Testu? That film?
Excuse me?
The film with Sylvie Testu?
Yeah, I
Is that-
didn't like it.
Why didn't you like the film?
Because I did not recognize my mother, and I think it was not true. Because it was not a good cast. She wasn't, and the movie would show her as only as someone partying, drinking, and not. You would never see my mother writing and working and thinking and meeting people, and she would always be out and going out and drinking and doing drugs, but it was not very serious, I guess. It would not show a writer, it would show someone who would just go out and, party.
What did your mother say to you about the time of the birth of 1954 and 55 throughout your life? How did she look back on that time as she got older?
Well, what she told me about it, she said first that she was, my mother was very shy, so she didn't like what happened because she became very famous very fast. Suddenly she was like an icon. She was everybody would look at her. Everybody would be interested in what she did. People would ask her, "What do you eat for dinner? What kind of car do you drive? What do you read? Where do you go on vacation? Who do you meet?" All the time she couldn't be alone, and she was horrified because she became some kind of she became something. She became like an object. Everybody wanted to take a piece of her. And there wasn't a week in the newspapers and magazines where they wouldn't speak about her. So she couldn't be left alone, and she was horrified. So that's what she told me. She told me she was some kind of she became some kind of an object, and everybody wanted to take a piece of that object. She was like a star, She wasn't used to it. And she didn't like it.
We talk about it sometimes, but it's still strange that this kind of phenomenon happened for a time to writers and not just musicians and actors, that a writer could have that kind of impact on society.
Yes.
How do you think having that, being so introspective and kind of shunning that kind of amazingly large spotlight affected her writing, the writing that she subsequently did through the rest of her life? Do you think she wrote differently, different kinds of books?
Oh no! I think she was talented for writing as soon as she started reading. She started writing when she was 8 or 9. She started writing small stories, and then she became. It was very easy for her to write. Her mother told me that I think she was talented, and she read a lot, so she had a lot of material inside her to write. So as soon as she decided to write this book, Bonjour Tristesse, I think she was 16 or 17. I think it came very easy for her to write Bonjour Tristesse. She wrote it in 2 months, I guess.
Wow.
And after that, the only thing she liked is she loved to write. So I think she wrote the other books. And I think if she would have never met success, she would have written anyway. That's all she wanted, is to write.
And your book kind of looks at this a little bit, but how different is the final published version from the original manuscript that she turned into Julia?
Oh, I think there was no big differences between the first version and the version that was published. It was a one draw. No, I think the publisher was so astonished with the work she had done. He chose to publish the book as it was.
No, and I was so afraid when I had to give my manuscript to Denis because I didn't have time anymore to change the book. It was horrible.
Well, I had a little. Anne interviewed me a little bit. But
Yes.
It was a very short interview to know a little bit more about my mother, but it was a very short interview. But I trusted Anne totally. because as I said before, I really liked her book, the book she wrote in 2012, Le Patriarche. I really liked, I was fond of her style, the way she wrote, and I knew the book would be good, so I was not worried.
But we worked together for the promotion,
Yes,
and it was very something very comfortable to be together for all the press, and I liked these moments.
the only experience I had is this experience I had with my mother.
But you have to read the book. Yes, I know that, but it's a
No, but
very
that's-
interesting, amazing book
Yes,
that you wrote about you and your mother.
yes. No, I wrote this book also because everyone would ask me to write this book, so I had to. I gave up on it and I wrote the book. But to answer your questions, my mother did everything she can to make me feel as a normal little boy. So there was nothing special about being her son. That's what she tried to do. She tried me to have a very normal life. I would go to school every morning, I would have my breakfast, have my lunch at the same time, my dinner at the same time, my toys, my bedroom, my friends, and I would see my mother every day, almost every day, and we spent some time together, and we had a very normal life. And this was very important to her, that I was raised like not like the son of some kind of a rock star or a writing star. It was important to her that I was raised like a normal little boy.
Just to follow up on that then, at what age did it start to dawn on you that your family life was not like other kids that you knew? That she was somebody known to everybody else?
Well, when I started to understand how famous she was, you mean? Well, I guess when I was 14, 15, because there was TV crews coming to my house, because there was interviews all the time, because she would travel to Japan, to America for the promotion of her books. And I would saw these stacks of books in my house, so I realized something was going on with books. Yes, because as Anne said, the book was a big scandal, because the book expressed most of ideas that the girls at the time had in their minds. And the 1954 was a year it was very conventional, very
Puritan.
very Puritan, you know. And the girls at 17, 18 were not supposed to talk. They were not supposed to express themselves. And even if they had dreams, even if they could think about boys, they were not allowed to express it, you know, very openly. So I think Bonjour Tristesse was a book that would put on paper some of these dreams of girls. So this book opened some way opened a window for many of these girls. And many girls realized, reading the book, I think they realized, oh my God, I'm not alone. I have all my dreams are all I expect from life, all I want, all my desires are printed on this page. So it's a little revolution.
I would imagine that even now you have people, older people, who just come to you and tell you about the effect of reading the book.
Oh yes,
Decades ago.
a lot.
And now.
Yeah,
What do they say to you?
they say what I just said. They say it was incredible at the time to read a book like that, because we would not expect something like this would happen. It would really change my life. It was like no, they're not women, they're ladies. They say it was like a thunder in my life. It changed all my perspective of life. It was very important. This book has struck like thunder all a generation of young girls at the time.
And how old were you when you read it the first time?
Excuse me?
When did you read it for the first time?
I read when I was 17 or 18, I think. It's not the first one I read.
Did you put it off for later for a reason, or you just another book spoke to you first and said, I'm ready for
No, I
that
just
one?
took another one first and then I read this one.
Did you wait to read any of her books for a while, or did the first moment it occur to you to read them? Did you say, okay, now I'm old enough to do it and I'll understand?
It took a little while before I read all the books because my mother was my mother before she was a writer. So I wanted to keep my mother as long as possible before she would become a writer.
Talk about this.
Yeah, I think it's like a global message.
Yeah.
You know, that's why the book is so famous.